and welcome to Habit Nerd, a podcast show that knows that few things can have a more powerful impact on your life than improving your daily systems, habits, and mindset. I'm your host, Dr. Bree Hurn, a multi-passionate researcher, lecturer, speaker, and coach. Once a perfectionist who was always busy but not necessarily effective, I overcame illness and burnout and am now obsessed with sharing the science and systems for working with efficiency and habits for abundant health in your mind and your body. Each week, my guests and I share stories and lessons backed by research. So let's buckle up and dive straight into today's empowering conversation. Today, my guest on the Habit Nerd podcast is the inspiring, the warm, the humorous financial planner, Canna Campbell. Canna Campbell is also known as SugarMamma, and she is all over the socials and YouTube as SugarMamma TV. Now, Canna is, as I said, a financial planner of 20 plus years experience. She's all about inspiring, educating, and empowering people to create a financially harmonious and independent future for themselves. Canna's money philosophy isn't about scrimping, saving, and living on the bare necessities. She believes that we have the right to splurge and treat ourselves as long as it's within respectful and mindful boundaries. Canna shows us how to be financially savvy while still living a comfortable and glamorous life. I know you will gain so much from this interview with Canna. We dive into principles of investing, to the importance of financial habits and a holistic view on that. And I really can't wait to hear what you think of this episode with the delightful Canna Campbell. Okay, so good morning to Canna Campbell, who is SugarMamma TV. I'm a huge fan, as I'm sure you'll hear throughout this episode. So, Canna, thanks a million for your time this morning. This podcast, is called The Habit Nerd. So I always start with all my guests asking, what is a habit that serves you, that helps you show up to be the person that you want to be?
Gosh, I am obsessed with habits myself, so I can completely relate to the gratitude and power of having a habit. Look, I guess with my financial planning hat on, I would say I have a habit of always having a goal. I'm very much someone who needs a goal in my life. It gives me purpose, it gives me direction, it gives me clarity. So my habit would be the habit of having a goal, and whether it be a goal for the next 20 minutes or a goal for the next 20 years, I have a habit of having goals.
Excellent. And so what is the system that you have in place to ensure that you set a goal and that you can work towards meeting that goal, whether it's a 20-minute goal or something more long-term?
Well, I really like to go deep with my goals. It's really not about a surface level goal, like, reading one book a week or one book a month. It's about actually understanding the why behind it, so that it's deeply embedded into your, ecosystem, and, the whole process is so incredibly organic, but then allows you to maximize, your personal growth and not have any of those self-limiting beliefs or those self-sabotaging habits that can creep up in all of us. So, my process is very much about, first of all, finding the goal that really ignites something within you. My podcast is called Sugar Mum's Fire Play. It's, about having something that just burns inside you, that fills you with passion and excitement. So, if you have to take time and invest time exploring what the goal is so that you pick the right goal, so be it. And, it really, when it comes to you, it hits you in the face hard. It's a massive wake-up call, because you get, this rush of motivation and empowerment in your life. So exploring and making sure you pick the right goal first. Then it's a matter of writing it down, because then it's not, you're actually starting to birth that goal into the reality of our lives. It's not a goal floating around in our head or in cyberspace. It's actually into the physical, universe. Then it's a matter of exploring the why behind it. A classic example that's not financial is, losing weight or getting fitter.
Yes.
We set these goals, and they're not necessarily our surface level goals. When you write them in a way of, I want to lose X amount of kilos, or I want to be able to run this many kilometers without stopping, unless you understand your why behind it, it is highly likely that you're going to forget about it, lose track, lose motivation, and this is when those goals sort of fade 3.5 weeks into January. So
Mm.
understand why. For example, take that example of, say, a fitness goal. Why do you want to be able to run fast? Why do you want to be able to run a certain amount of certain distance? Well, it might be something for you, and everyone's different as to what their why might be. But for me, my why would be, okay, well, I want to have amazing energy. I want to feel proud about seeing my fitness, go to the next level. I love the runner's high, and the sense of the adrenaline rush of running. I want to be able to sleep better at night. I want to feel confident, when I'm slip into a swimsuit. I want to improve my posture. Like, go deep with it. Really, once you've invested time exploring the right goal for yourself, explore the why. And it's actually quite profound when we do this type of work properly as to what actually comes up and what we learn about ourselves as to what our true why is. And that's what then fuels the longevity and that endurance needed to actually see those goals come into fruition. And when it comes to then obviously the practical application of those goals, it's very much about, okay, what do I need to do to help make this goal happen? And that's when we look at the physical side. So, all right, I need to go for a run at least 4 times a week. All right, how do I actually fit this realistically into my schedule? What hours of the day can I squeeze this in? And also, how can I do this in an efficient way? And look at working smarter, not harder, because obviously we're all juggling way too many balls. And the reality of the world that we live in is we can't take those balls necessarily quickly and easily out of the air. We need to work with what we've got. So for example, for me, for my exercise routine, I do my exercise routine with my dogs in the park. So I'm actually killing two birds with one stone. I'm exercising the dogs and I'm doing my own exercise. I'm getting some fresh air and out in the elements. So, it's about the practical side and setting goals. And I'm a big believer on short goals, small goals, which is
Hmm.
the process behind $1,000 project, which is a six-figure investment portfolio that's literally been built $1,000 at a time. Each goal is a
Yes.
bite-sized goal, and therefore it's
Mm.
achievable. Sorry, my answers were
Mm.
long here. And then, of course, it's about short-term gratification and reward. So, you know, for example, you do that 5 kilometer run, well, then go and reward yourself that day with a massage. So
Mm.
it's the way, and it's the way I've always run my life, and I've been obsessed with goals ever since I was a little girl.
Mm. Wow. Thank you for such a generous answer, Canna. I really love the way that you have gone introspective there with the why, but also the practicality of we need this to be, sustainable and actionable and practical in our lives. So, yeah, really, I'm connecting with the way that you are making it about your identity and your value system, and also the way that you are very realistic about the likelihood of a goal being, something that can be kept front of mind in a life that is, as you say, is busy and multi passionate. So thank you so much. What about, is there a habit that you currently have that you feel isn't aligned with the sort of person that you're trying to be?
Yes, absolutely. Sugar. I'm a chocoholic. I just ate some of my daughter's chocolate croissant after I dropped her off to daycare because there was some left in the car. Um, by the way. Yes, sugar. Like I have a really bad habit of I have dinner, I you
Mm-hmm.
know have a shower, I clean my teeth, and as I'm getting into bed, I'm like, oh, I want some sugar, I want some chocolate, and I'll go and eat a
Mm.
whole pile of chocolate literally in bed. I, I don't know what that's about, and I'm desperately trying to break that habit and switch it to a peppermint tea, or at least some dark chocolate.
Mm.
But yeah, that definitely doesn't serve me. That's not who I don't want to be. Whilst I accept I like chocolate and it's my vice, I don't want to be consuming chocolate so late in the night, particularly when you're trying to fall asleep.
Mm. Thank you for your honesty. I have exactly the same habit. If you were to ask me that question, my answer would have been absolutely exactly the same as you've just given. So it sounds like you have got some plans to try and break that habit by replacing it with something like a peppermint tea, or as you say, trying dark chocolate. For me, dark chocolate just does not hit like milk chocolate does. So, I am trying that myself, and I'm trying to eat a bit less, so to be a bit kinder to myself and maybe just not have as much chocolate. So rather than go cold turkey, for me, it's about the ritual of having a cup of tea and like a treat. So I've got this kind of strange feedback loop in my head around the dopamine of a treat, after a long day, sitting down with my cup of tea and having some chocolate. So for me, it's about breaking the association with the tea, which is not so bad, with the chocolate that is, less desirable for me. So we're absolutely on the same train there. So maybe both of us a bit less chocolate first, and then, move to dark chocolate, and then maybe try and the peppermint tea. That will be, that might be my plan. Amazing. Thank you so much. So now, Canna, you are an expert in finance, which is, how I've come across your work, and a huge advocate for your work for the financial independence that you're instilling in women, the financial literacy, all of your media work, and all of the very actionable and realistic financial advice around women who are raising families and, working, in multiple aspects of their lives as well. So why, Canna, is our mindset and then our subsequent habits around money so important?
Well, the way I look at well-being and wellness is a pillar system. And, we've all been told that it's about, your fitness and your, food plan. But it's also, I feel, financial. It's also about our relationship with ourselves and obviously the people around us, and our spiritual connection, and obviously our career and intellectual growth. The thing with money is it's actually the one that we have the most amount of control over. And money infiltrates into so many different areas of our lives. If you think about it for a second, when we are strapped for cash, we don't have enough money. It impacts our physical and mental health. We take jobs that we don't necessarily like because it just puts, pays the bills and puts food on the table.
Yes.
It impacts our relationships. Something like 32% of divorces are caused because of financial stress.
Wow.
And then, find that it spiritual and personal growth. We can't give as much money to charity. We can't be as generous with our time. Because we try to make money and earn money and pay the bills.
Yes.
A handle over our debt. But it's actually, and I'm a licensed financial planner. I'm not necessarily a financial expert. I've been a financial planner for 20-something years. Ran a financial planner of my own for 17 years. Money is actually so much easier than we think. When you read the Fin Review, it's intimidating, it's overwhelming. But actually, at the heart of financial well-being, it is so incredibly simple. And in fact, the smallest, tiniest changes can have the most profound impact in improving your financial well-being and be the catalyst for the breakthrough where you step into this new space, this new sense of awareness and empowerment around your own sense of financial well-being and what your definition is.
That's incredible. It's certainly, it really aligns with me, when you feel a sense of confidence around money and when you feel a sense of freedom around the knowledge that you have around money, it does absolutely infiltrate, the way you show up in the world and how, you parent and how you work and how you, make decisions throughout the day. So I'm glad you've given us that really holistic kind of view of the importance of our habits around money. Hi everyone, I do hope you're enjoying The Habit Nerd. Now, whilst I love sharing research-informed, tried and tested habits for work, health and mindset on this podcast, you might not know that I am also a keynote speaker and I facilitate workshops. Now, I've opened up a limited amount of dates just in the first half of 2025 so that your organisation or event can engage me, the Habit Nerd. We can work together to refine the message just for your context, but I can use the principles of behavioural science and organisational psychology to create and sustain positive habits and cover things like task prioritisation, calendar management, hybrid work practices, managing email, and productivity habits, just to name a few. I can also help you with which habits have the most comprehensive impact across your life, work and learning habits, habits to create and maintain physical health, and mental health habits to thrive in a busy life. So if a warm, engaging presentation or workshop dripping in practical strategies and propped up by credible research sounds like something you or your organisation could really do with, then go to The Habit Nerd on Instagram. Let's work together to create some really great habits. If we're talking to an audience of women, we're talking, hopefully my work resonates with men as well, but those women who are wanting to earn that financial independence, to know about gaining, maintaining and multiplying money, what is fundamental for them to know? I know you've just said you've got, years and years of experience, and that's a big question to distill into one answer. But if there was something fundamental, what might you tell them?
There's no immediate answer to that. It's not just one thing. It is, just like well-being, it's about, holistic, comprehensive approach to wellness. Financial well-being is the same. So
right.
You've got to look at your cash flow and your budget. You've got to, in particularly for women, look at your superannuation. We put our super to the bottom of the list, and it just continues to remain at the bottom of the list as new things pile on. That has got to stop. You've got to understand where your superannuation is, how much you've got, where is it invested? Is it invested in the right way for you? How much are you going to need to be able to retire? Then the other aspect is obviously having emergency money. So many Australians don't even have enough $2,000, actually, to be precise, to fund an immediate emergency without relying on debt or buy now, pay later. That is unacceptable. There's no magical formula as to how much emergency money you need. Everybody is different. But, it is not $2,000. So that's barely enough. It's a 5-figure plus for most Australians. So having emergency money. Then, of course, it's about investing. And the SugarMamma philosophy is very much about building long-term growing passive income streams. And this is what we do through investing. And, everyone has a different risk profile and appetite for investing and preference for investing. But, for me, I like property, but I also have a huge passion towards Australian shares, particularly industrial shares. So it's about growing and building that passive income through dividends. So, there is many aspects of financial wellness, and of course, insurance, personal insurance. So, what happens if you can't work because you get sick and you need to take a year off to work, to focus on treatment? Do you have an income protection policy that will help cover your cost of living? So many Australians are underinsured, and they don't, it's not until the shit hits the fan that they go, oh my gosh, I don't have any insurance in place. Things go diabolically wrong. So don't be a victim. Sleep well at night. Go and just understand what insurances you need. And a lot of these insurances actually can be taken out through super. Obviously not product advice or strategic advice, but this is what you've got to invest protecting yourself. And that's the other component of financial independence is, knowing that, okay, if something happens to me, our mortgage is going to be cleared, or I can still afford to put food on the table and pay the rent. It is, it's not a straight answer, and that's why there's so much need for financial literacy in our school educational systems.
Absolutely. Now, just with that insurance question, Canna, you said most superannuation funds will have some form of income protection in there. How do people find out whether it's the right one for them?
Well, the advice is just to go and see a financial planner. The first point of call, though, I do is call up your superannuation company and find out, first of all, do you have any? And if so, how much? What are you paying? And who's the underlying insurance company? Look, most people have some sort of default cover of life and TPD cover in their super. Not all superannuation companies offer income protection. More and more do so. And also, I should point out, some employers will actually, pay for their staff's income protection for them. But the important things to look for is, just focusing purely right now on income protection is making sure that you are covered to age 65. Some superannuation policies might have income protection, but it only has a 2-year benefit period. I personally don't think that's ideal. You want to be covered to 65. And then, of course, waiting period. I know for myself personally, my waiting period is 90 days, which means if I get sick and I cannot work due to a medical reason, I have to wait 90 days until my income protection policy kicks in, which then means
Mm,
I need 90 days worth of living expenses in the meantime. So,
mm,
there's things you need to speak about and look at. There's so much information is actually available for free online. You can use comparison websites, as a first point of call. And a financial planner will actually give you personal advice. They will sit down and go, all right, how much emergency money? What's your rent or what's your mortgage repayment? How many children do you have? What are your living expenses? They will actually come to you and go, all right, you need this, this, and this. This is the best place to get it. This is the most best value for policy, best value for money. And I'd say, no two insurance policies are the same. The devil is always in the details. So you want to make sure you pick the right
mm,
policy.
mm. Yeah, the reason I asked that question, I can really resonate and really endorse the need to see a financial planner for your own situation. I, felt like I was fairly confident with my super policy. I felt like I understood it fairly well and I'd read the details fairly carefully. Then I saw a financial planner and we looked really closely into it. And the super fund that I happened to be with at the time had a caveat that they were the ones, if there was an accident or an injury, to decide whether or not the payout was within 90 days, 120 days. So they had some autonomy there. And apparently people in the past had been really stung by that sort of one line, that it was kind of up to the employer to decide with the superannuation company whether you were eligible for that money, in a really quick period or whether you had to wait. And so for me, that just didn't feel empowering at all, that it would be up to somebody else, to make that decision based on health or based on, wellness. So that was, and not until I had an expert look into that really deeply and tell me about that fund from their own experience with other clients, was I able to learn that fact. So even somebody who feels like they've got, a fairly strong grasp of it can learn, as you say, the devil in the detail. And that was certainly the case for me. So yeah, thank you very much for that reminder. Um,
I
what
will say
about?
this, one of my,
No, you go, Kenna.
I was just going to quickly, I was just going to quickly say, so one of my girlfriends is an oncologist, and I was chatting with her, and she said, when I say to my patients, before they start treatment, all right, what have you got in place? What family support have you got? What's your stress levels like? Do you have insurance? She said, when my
Mm,
patients say yes, I have full insurance. I've got a payout coming to me on trauma cover. I've got income protection that's going to cover me for as long as I need to focus on getting better. She said the stress levels for that patient significantly drop, and they're able to put everything they can into the treatment and the recovery process. And she said it is the difference in results is quite remarkable.
wow. Wow, what a powerful insight. So that goes back to your first answer around just how important financial security is and, the link that it has, across so many different aspects of our lives. What a wonderful oncologist to know, to ask that question and to know, the significance of that kind of holistic approach, that it's not just about the medical treatment that they're putting in to fight, that cancer, but it's also, the things that will help them sleep at night and know that their children will be okay, and that, they'll be able to keep paying for food and bills as they pile in, and the medical expenses, of course. That's incredible. Thank you for telling us that story. All right, Canna. As I said, you are extremely busy, so I don't want to take up too much more of your time. What is a final message that you would like to leave our Habit Nerd audience with, if there was one, to help them live a remarkable life?
It would be the habit of including a financial goal in your life.
Right.
Don't leave it, don't delay it.
What?
The sooner you get started, the better. It's amazing what you can do once you start putting that habit into practice.
Yeah. So, I know I'm familiar with your work in, big, audacious, scary goals, and also, more sustainable, achievable, bite-sized goals. So is that something you'd advocate for, having something that feels exciting but a bit scary, but also some sort of micro goals along the way?
I would say it's ebbs and flows for people who are completely overwhelmed by money and money management. Take it gently, take it slowly, make it small goals, small simple goals, even a goal of doing a budget by the end of the day, or a goal of calling
Mm,
up your superannuation company day. You know, Don't,
Mm.
as you build up your confidence, you can then start thinking about bigger goals, maybe an investing goal. So everybody's different, but then you might have someone who's feeling extremely motivated right now, particularly at the beginning of the year, and they just want to just launch. Well, then go for it. Capitalize on that energy,
Mm.
on that rush, on that, passion, and dare to dream. And I set outrageous goals, and some goals I achieve, some goals I don't. But the thing is, at the end of the day, whether I've achieved them or not, I feel proud that I've given everything my best shot, and I make peace with that. And I know that there's also a huge amount of non-financial benefits that come from working on goals, like the sense of self-control and discipline. Your own personal financial literacy that evolves over time by working on a goal. The awareness that you get, the ideas that are born, or businesses, or investments that have begun. Like there's, the sense of self-worth. There's a lot of non-financial benefits that come from working on a goal.
Thank you for saying that, because I know last year, just personally, I made a goal to hit a figure in my investment portfolio. I didn't get there. I spent some time in December feeling a bit of disappointment around that, because I'd put 31st of December. This was the figure that I wanted to see in my share portfolio. Didn't get there, and it took me, I have to be honest, it took me a day to sort of get over that sense of disappointment and, a little bit of even shame. Where did I go wrong? I wasn't far off it, but I didn't meet it. But it took me a day, as I say, but then I was able to do that inner work of all the learning that I did along the way, what was, what was able to be achieved, and also the habits that I was building and how that was going to serve me to get to that goal maybe by March or April as opposed to December. So it was a sense of, for me, it's always a goal needs to be big and scary, but it also needs to be realistic enough that I feel like I can sustain some motivation towards seeing, the incremental changes, that I'm at least getting close, even if I don't meet the goal. So thank you for saying that, there's worth in setting the big goals, because all of the habits and the mindset and everything that goes into the journey along the way is absolutely worth it. And that, just remembering that you will get there. It might just not be on the time frame that you necessarily set for yourself. But I am also an advocate for those small, incremental goals where I can feel a sense of achievement, like, okay, I am getting somewhere. So that sort of fuels that neural pathway to keep going. So thank you. Now, Canna, I'm about to do, sorry, please go.
Sorry, I just want to say something quickly though. You kind of set yourself up for failure with that goal, because the share market is incredibly volatile, and you've
Mm,
pinned your accomplishment of that goal on something that bounces around like a yo-yo.
right, that I have
Instead,
no control over.
perhaps think of, yeah, yeah. So you actually probably could have achieved your goal if the share market, depending, it was out of your control, whether you achieve that
Mm,
goal or not. So this is
mm,
why I'm really anti goals about, grow my wealth by this much. If
mm-hmm.
you're really truly chasing financial freedom, focus your goal on building the passive income, because the
Okay,
passive income doesn't fluctuate like the value of the share at any second of the day. So, for
right.
example, your portfolio, and I'm going to use some very simple numbers for everyone. Say your portfolio is worth $200,000. Instead
Mm-hmm.
of setting a goal and say it's yielding 5% for simplicity, so it makes you $10,000 a year in passive income.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of making your goal, well, I want my portfolio to be worth $250,000. Instead, go, okay, well, I want to grow my passive income stream from $10,000 per annum to $12,500 per annum.
So
So it
that's
doesn't
more around
matter
the
what the because
dividends.
that yes, because the more
Right.
income, passive income we have, for example, through dividends, the more financial freedom we have. And typically speaking, obviously, I don't know what's inside your investment portfolio, but typically speaking, dividends are a lot more consistent when you
Mm,
compare them to the value of a share portfolio, which is literally every split second of the day is changing. So you were
yes.
almost you were it was a cruel goal to set for yourself. And it also could have lured you into false sense of security if you had achieved that goal. Because it could drop the next day, and making it harder for the next series of goals. So perhaps
Mm,
focus on the passive income rather than the gross value, because you might have a $10 million share portfolio paying you $10,000 a year, or you might have $1 million portfolio paying you $50,000 a year. Which one
Yeah,
works better
wow.
for you?
Yeah, that's really powerful advice. Thank you so much. When you're talking about that passive income, if we are talking about dividends, are we better to pay attention to a percentage amount or the dollar amount? Or does it not matter?
It's a really great question, and it's a bit more complicated. So it all depends on where you're investing and how long you've been investing for. But at the end of the day, I would say focus on the dollar amount. So at the end of each financial year, when you're doing your
Mm-hmm.
taxes, obviously you
Mm-hmm.
have to let the ATO know how much you've earned in dividends or
Mm.
passive income, whether it be rent from an investment property. You can then compare it against the previous year. So
Mm-hmm.
to answer that question in a simplistic term, focus on the dollar, not the percentage.
Yes. Okay, that's really helpful. That's really helpful. And would you do it yearly, Canna, or would you look at that quarterly, your dividend figure, to be able to compare, quarterly or yearly?
So I actually do mine when it comes to looking at the gross portfolio. I used to do it every quarter, or actually even every month when I first
Mm-hmm.
started. But then
Mm-hmm.
I sort of got busy, and portfolio was building momentum, and it wasn't an effective use of my time. So
Mm-hmm.
I now actually just do it at the end of the financial year when I'm doing my taxes and I'm working with my accountant, and I say, all right, exactly how much did I earn from my share portfolios, and then I can see for myself what that compared with the previous year, and see how I'm tracking. But I will say this: I would do every now and again, if I'm feeling a little bit lacking in motivation, you could say,
Mm-hmm.
I will quickly just do some run really rough, headline numbers to see what where we're tracking financially with
Mm-hmm.
a variety of different investments for
Mm-hmm.
that passive income.
Yeah, right. And when you say you're lacking motivation, is that so that you can give yourself a little bit of a boost? Like, oh no, we're doing okay.
Well, I remember, in particular, my partner Tom and I were feeling a bit flat and deflated, and we'd had a few, setbacks and things that were just out of our control that we had to deal with, and it put brakes on a few things that we were really hoping to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
And then, we were sort of feeling sorry for ourselves, and I actually sat down and did this, and it was very sort of rough numbers. But it actually made me go, actually, considering everything we've gone through, we're actually doing okay, and we're actually
Mm.
making great progress regardless. And what we're doing is actually really smart, intelligent, and is actually going to work for us well into the long run. And I did the numbers, I wrote them down, wrote where the passive income comes from, what it adds up to, and I took it to him and showed Tom. And I was like, hey, look at this. I just looked at these numbers, and it just instantly snapped us out of our mood, and
Right.
it got us back being motivated again, back on bandwagon. Just a complete, I guess, refresh and snapped us out of that mood.
Yeah, that's incredible. So the message there for me, and I think for our listeners, is that don't hide from it. So like open up the notebook, look at your portfolio, or look at, how you're tracking, and actually bring it out into the light, because the news may not be what you want to see, but knowledge is power, isn't it? And so, ignorance is not bliss when it comes to money. You might surprise yourself, but, if there is
Yes,
something that you need to action, then be brave enough to do that.
exactly.
Amazing. Now, um, Canna, I'm, an avid follower of your work. I love your social media, but I want my listeners to be able to connect with you if they don't already. So where can they do that to gain more from you and your excellent work?
So the best place to sort of reach out to me is on Instagram at SugarMamma TV. I obviously have books, The $1,000 Project and Mindful Money, and
Mm-hmm.
I obviously am on all the major platforms. My biggest account is actually YouTube, which is it's about 124,000 followers. So that's if you want to see bite-sized videos or listen to podcasts or read my book, that's a great place to start tapping into my resources. That gives you the roadmap to get started on your financial well-being.
It absolutely does. I can attest to that. So I've read both of your books, but I'm just always so grateful for how generous you are, even just on Instagram. The amount of information and bite-sized inspiration I get just from the carousels that you post, or even just things on your stories. So it's the second year that I'm going to be doing your challenge, your January 10-day challenge. And so just to tell the listeners, I had a huge win last year when one of your challenges was to seek out where you may be owed money that you don't know. So I found some money on the government website that, was from an old bank account that somebody had left in my name. And that was, my goodness, it made my whole month to be able to find this, this free money. So that was a huge win for me. And so I look forward to seeing what the challenge holds this year as well. So just a huge thank you, Canna, for your generosity, for all of the work that you do, and for the time that you've given to me and our listeners today. Thank you for tuning into this episode of The Habit Nerd. I hope you found some new inspiration, learned something new, or gained a fresh perspective. If you did enjoy the episode, I would be really grateful if you could please leave a 5-star review, as it helps the show get in the ears of new listeners, plus it should only take you 5 seconds. If you're keen for more tips and insights, then head over to Instagram and follow Habit Nerd.